To our coffee with the City of Murrieta here at the phenomenal Murrieta Hot Springs Resort. My name is Patrick Ellis. I'm President and CEO of the Murrieta Waldemar Chamber of Commerce. I'm glad to see you all here this morning. Such a beautiful day out today. I want to thank Murrieta Hot Springs Resort for providing us this space for this year as we get ready to kick off construction at the Murrieta Innovation Center very soon. So we're going to be here for this entire year, so we're excited for that. And then obviously to Western Water and to Dunkin' Donuts for providing the coffee and donuts this morning. Thank you for being here. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to turn it over to one, the only, the amazing mayor of Murrieta, Cindy Warren.
Thank you. Good morning. How could this not be a beautiful morning? The sun is shining. We don't have snow. There's no rain. And we're all together. That's the best part. And what was that? Oh, it's above zero. And Ron's awake. That's even the more important thing. He said barely. Well, I am your mayor. My name is Cindy Warren, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here. Today, we get the privilege of hearing from our Community Services Department. Lots of great things going on at our library, and it's going to be an exciting presentation. And I promise you, after the presentations, we will have questions and answers that you can ask. They will answer, hopefully, and if not, we'll get them answered for you later. I think I'd like to introduce you, my colleague, Ron Holiday.
Good morning, everyone. Anybody not awake like me? Thank you for being here.
Okay, well, shall we, did you want to do the trash? Did you want to talk about trash? No, I was going to do magazine later. You do trash.
I do trash. Who's got trash? Everybody's got trash. But is it bulky?
Yes.
If your trash is bulky or you need some shredding, we have an event for Murrieta residents only this Saturday, March 1st, from 8 to noon. And it's not where it normally would be, so if you show up where you always show up, you will be in the wrong place. It's at the Murrieta Senior Center, which is just next to the library at 5 Town Square. Nobody knows where 5 Town Square is. It's right after 4 Town Square. It's right next to the library. Melvin goes to work and then goes over to Senior Center and makes sure everybody's doing everything correctly there.
Yes, of course.
So yeah, take your bulky trash and or shredding down there this Saturday.
Excellent job on trash. It's amazing how much trash we all can collect, right? It's just amazing. Has everybody seen our magazine? Hopefully it's sitting on your coffee table. If you want to take an extra one home and pass it out to friends, I have them here. It is fabulous. I want to thank Christina Davis, our editor, I would say, in our magazine. Raise your hand, because she does a fabulous job. And I want to thank her for this. We've got extras for everybody, and you will get to learn a lot about a lot of things. Well, without further ado, I said before, we're going to focus on our Community Services Department, update on our library expansion, and we're going to start off with our director, Mr. Brian Ambrose.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start out with the only library joke I know to liven up this group. A paranoid schizophrenic walks into the library and asks the librarian, "Where's your section on paranoia?" And the librarian says, "It's right behind you." That's the best I have. If you don't know me, my name is Brian Ambrose. I serve as the Director of Community Services at the city. That encompasses the Parks and Recreation Division, Murrieta Public Library, as well as homeless services. So we're before you to talk about a new project that's coming up for the city that we're going to need the community's help and support, aka your money on. It's called the Library Expansion Project. It's for the children's section. But first, let me introduce a few people. Right to my right, Melvin Rosellis. Melvin is our library manager. You're going to hear part of my presentation, the amount of programs that we have, and he'll get into some of the programs as well. Just know that our library, for a population the size that we have here at Murrieta, is one of the busiest in California. It's an amazing library, and the staff is just extraordinary. Further down, Brian Crawford, raise your hand. He's going to give a little update. Brian Crawford serves as our senior program manager. All capital improvement projects, all construction for the Parks Department and the library flow through him. So he's managing this project with our architects. Kevin Kuhn is next to him, president of the Murrieta Library Foundation. So if you have a checkbook today, or if you have Venmo, you might want to get to know him a little well. And then Kristen Crane, our assistant city manager, is there. Kristen's providing some oversight of this project for city manager's office. It's a passion project for her as much as it is for me. So a little bit about why we're here. I grew up in a not so great area of Philadelphia. The one thing, there we go Eagles. The one thing about Philadelphia, they're passionate for their sports. The bad thing about Philadelphia is they're passionate for everything else that might not be really good. My sister worked for a library when I was in school. And honest to goodness, it was the only place I could leave school before heading home and be safe. And I spent a lot of time at that library. And so I'm very appreciative of the library, of the programs that libraries run. If you go to our library today at 3 o'clock, you're going to notice a lot of unattended children that walk over from Murrieta Elementary and stay there for a few hours until their parents get home. We don't advocate for that, but it's a reality. It happened when I was young, and it happens now. It's a safe place. So it's not just a place to take out books. It's a place for children to go and for us to develop programming for those children. We have a total of 318 total programs per year that go through our library. That's more than one a day that we're open. That's an extraordinary amount of programming that we're putting on at the library. Each year, over 400,000 pieces of material are loaned out from our library. And an interesting fact, we get back about 2/3 of that, if not less. Because while we're a standalone library, we have our own library staff and our City of Murrieta employees. We are part of the Riverside County Library System. So what you'll see is people come to our library for the programming, they'll come for our staff, and they'll pass 2 and 3 different libraries to get there. They'll take out numerous books, and then they'll return those books to the libraries that are closer to their homes. And one of the facts I am most proud about our library is everybody remember the good old times in COVID? We were the first library in Riverside County to offer curbside service. So our library staff begged city administration to start a program because we were all locked in our homes. All of our children did not have access. They had online access. They were taking their Zoom classes. I have 5 children. 3 of them, I think, were in school at that time. My one son had his ADHD. He was on Zoom trying to learn. It was an abomination. It just didn't work for my family. The library offering books, offering other materials that you'll hear Melvin explain, the other pieces of material we have in our library for all program, but we opened back up as soon as we possibly could for curbside service. And honest to goodness, in my entire public service career, that's probably one of the facts that I'm most proud about. So, where did it all start and why are we here? We started, if anybody was here in the early 90s, we started the city because we wanted local control. We wanted to control our destiny. We wanted our own police department. We wanted our own fire department. But one of the things we also wanted is we wanted our own library. We had some community members like Carol Carson, who started the Friends of the Murrieta Library, and they wanted their own branch. And so back in 1996, we opened our first branch in an old converted bank over off of Los Alamos, on Los Alamos. And we started saving up for our own facility over at where it is now in Town Square. And it took us years and years of saving until we finally saved up enough money. It was always meant to be a 2-phase construction project. The original library that you see now, the footprint now, and then we would add on the children's section. Our original librarian at that time, Diane Satchwell, let the city know the day we opened up, we were already at capacity. And we've grown tremendously, the city has, since that time. So we need this section. We need a whole entire area for our children's area. If you've ever tried to rent out our community room at the library, you've probably been told, sorry, it is booked solid. So we're going to open up an area that has another conference room, a story time room for the kids, which will free up the community room for your organization, for the chamber to use, for the water district, to be able to use as it's intended to use, and that's as a community room. So from day one, the place was already at capacity, and now we're going to build to the final ultimate build out of the library. We have plans. We'll have plans here in about a month or two. We're going to go out to bid. Brian Crawford's going to talk about that. Our city council took a big leap a few months ago. We came to them with a few different proposals. The size of the library, the expansion that we wanted to build, was cost prohibitive. It was about $9 million. So we had to scale down. The place that we can afford won't be big enough for the future of Murrieta. And so we convinced, I'd like to say conned the city council to let us raise funds. Let us go and raise private funds from the community using the foundation and raise about $500,000 to $1 million and complete the size of the library that's needed for our future, for our children, and for the families that are moving here. So that's what you're going to hear about today. This is a passion project for every single person that you see before you up at this table. This is something, when you look at communities that are successful, those communities have a strong library. And I'm not overestimating it when I say that. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to the real boss at the library, Melvin Rosellis.
Hi everybody, my name is again Melvin Rosellis, Library Manager for the Murrieta Public Library. Started in January of 2022, and it's been an amazing journey with the passionate staff that we have and the support from Library Administration and our amazing City Council. So I wanted to talk about meeting programming needs. So, well, I guess we are going to construct a 45,000 would be my dream. Yeah. I always like to add an extra zero to things, right? I'm sure everybody would want an extra zero. But more meeting programming needs, thank you. So, as Brian had mentioned, we circulate about 400,000 materials each year. And the stat that I didn't put up there is we get about 350,000 visits annually to the library. So you can tell that this is a regional draw. People love to come to our library for our programming, our collection, and the services that we provide. Our particular library that was built in Town Square was built in 2007. So you can imagine Murrieta was vastly different in 2007 to now. Population has exploded, housing continues to be constructed, and that means attendance, our attendance statistics have increased from about 200% since we opened. And as Brian had mentioned, the day that we opened, we already found that we were at capacity with our collection, with our programming. So that speaks to the need of youth programs. So since 2010, we found that Murrieta's population has grown, right? And there's a lot of housing units. If you just go down Jefferson, down Los Alamos, there's a lot of multifamily housing units coming. So that means there's going to be a lot more families in our community, a lot more children in our community who need these kind of services. And without the expansion, the library can't meet the needs of increasing demand for early literacy and programming and family services. And early literacy, what's the importance of early literacy? As you know, the bread and butter of public libraries is story time, right? Story time, exposing our children to literacy, to reading, to education. And so story time is actually the first classroom experience that children get to experience. And so it basically teaches them essential socialization skills and pre-literacy skills that help provide them with a great foundation for great academic success, and that translates to a great life, right? So it's really important to start early, to start young, and build that strong foundation in order to build a successful life and into adulthood. So what do studies show? Early literacy programs such as Storytime and the other programs that I will describe later, they basically improve long-term academic success, right? So if a child starts behind when they begin, like let's say kindergarten, they're already a step behind, and that will affect them throughout their entire lives. And then ultimately, it affects their economic mobility, right? Everybody is a business owner in here, I assume, or is related to understanding the importance of economics and economic mobility. And this plants that seed and that foundation for that path, for that child, or that family, right? So I can't speak to the importance of early literacy enough. And so children also who attend library story times, they are better prepared to learn and succeed in school. So our current space limitations, as I mentioned, our building was built in 2007, and that was actually a new building when we first originally opened on Los Alamos in I think now it's a Urgent Care and a Starbucks, if you're familiar with it. So, progress, right? So that was, our building was designed for a smaller population, but now, as we know, population has increased. So we have one community room in our library, and that is pretty much our programming room. It's for adult programs, teen programs, all the children's programming that we do. Outside city events for the city itself. Fire comes to use it, PD comes to use it, other external organizations book it. So you can imagine how busy the room gets, and the square footage of the room, can't hold. I think the fire code is about 86, right? And to give you kind of perspective, we had story time this past summer in our Carol Carson Garden of Verses, and that garnered about 200 people each time that we did the story time. So you can imagine the need for the space. So as I mentioned, the community room doubles as a storytime space, and it limits the amount of children's programs and community programs that we have, because we're always competing with ourselves and with other organizations to use the space. So without that dedicated space, we don't have a space, for that hands-on, interactive learning, STEM, arts, and early learning activities just dedicated for that early literacy need that I had spoken to earlier, right? So. Next slide, please. The next slide is the youth and family programs. I'm going to kind of turn around here because I didn't bring my notes on this particular slide. But as I mentioned, story time. So you must be wondering, what are we doing right now currently at the library? So at the library currently, we have 3 different story times. The garden story time will start up in the summer, the one that I had just mentioned that garners about 200 people. So we have a lapsed story time for ages 0 to 18 months. Family story time for 18 months to 6-year-olds with an adult. And then also independent story time for ages 4 to 5. And that's actually a really cool one that not a lot of libraries do. And, we're trying to do that academic success, prepare them for that classroom environment. And independent story time is where you drop off your child. You stay in the library. We give you a pager, so you're always close by, and we page you if you need you. But we try to get them used for that independent learning, because, obviously mommy and daddy are not going to be with you all the time. And this is a great opportunity to just kind of ease them into that school environment rather than just throwing them into the classroom environment. Some other programs that we do is our annual summer reading challenge. So every summer we do an annual summer reading challenge where we prevent the summer slide. And you're probably thinking, are we sending them to the playground? No, the summer slide is when you have a big break during the summer, and during that time, the literacy skills tend to decrease because they're not reading, they're not going to school, all of that good stuff. So we try to make it fun and provide incentives, fun programming at the library to keep kids reading throughout the summer. So we always have a lot of people. I don't have the specific statistics, but I think we have 3,000 people that completed. So that's reading at least 5 books during the summer. So it's a really fun program. We're doing 1,000 books before kindergarten. So again, early literacy, the importance of early literacy. So this is another incentive program that we try to get parents to read their 1,000 books to their child before kindergarten. So reading to your child is also just as important as the child reading themselves, right? Because it really starts with the caregiver or the parent modeling that behavior and exposing them to literacy skills at a very young age. Dogtails. This is Brian Crawford's favorite program. So Dogtails is basically reading to a therapy dog. If a child is a reluctant reader, isn't associating positive experiences with either reading or a dog in some cases, might be afraid of a dog or something like that. This is a great program where you can bring your child, they can read to a therapy dog, and we have some amazing cute dogs at the program. Another program that we have is a Kids Garden Grow Club. And so we recently installed a pollinator demonstration garden with the help of Western Water and the California State Library through a grant on the outside next to Town Square Park. And so this basically has all California natives, water-wise, all of that good stuff. And we have a kids garden club to educate them on the importance of being water-wise and California native and plants and seeds and all of that. We also have a seed library. which is not specifically for children, but adults can get seeds from the library, plant them, and technically you're checking them out, so when your plant yields some results, you can return them at the library. So basically, that's kind of our sustainability efforts at the library. Some other programs, STEM Lab and Kids Science Series. This is where we try to make it fun for the kids, where it's not a strict academic, right? Because you know, at school it's very structured, very organized. This is kind of more free flowing, more activity based, more collaborative based in a fun environment. And their Kids Science Series is actually taught by a volunteer retired science elementary school teacher. So it's a great program. Library for All Junior. So we have a collection called Library for All, and that is, Library for All. Library for All is a program for children with disabilities. And so we try to welcome all kids or people into our library, and we have a program for teen and adults as well, but we have one that specifically caters to children with disabilities, and it's a great program series. Sorry, I got confused with Library of Things, which is different. Library of Things is a collection that are not typically items that are circulated at a library. So, you know, you could imagine if I asked you guys, what do you think would circulate at a library? Obviously books, maybe ebooks, e-resources, DVDs, whatever, you know, what you have you. But these are actually items that are not typical. Like, for example, board games. We have storytime kits. We have early learning manipulative for the kids. We have instruments for the kids. And when I say for the kids, actually we have another one that duplicates for adults. So as I mentioned, we had a pollinator garden. We actually have gardening tools. We have, I think, soil testers as well. You name it, we probably have it at the library. So it's really cool. And then the last two for kids that we have is knitting and crocheting, and then also chess open play. So we have a ton of programming that we do already at the library. So with the expansion, we'd be able to expand upon it. So next slide, please. Oh, looks like there we go. So how does the expansion enhance our programming? So basically, new story time and multi-purpose room, as Mr. Ambrose had just mentioned, a dedicated space for these literacy programmings, which will allow for more frequent and engaging sessions, right? And so it's going to be a room designed for young learners, child-sized furniture, interactive and collaborative play areas throughout the space. And there's going to be flexible space for various types of programs, as I had mentioned in the previous slide. So we have a very creative staff that tries to cater to the needs of our community, and so with that additional space, we'll be able to expand our programming for them. Expanded collection, we'll have over 1,900 square feet for children's books, flexible seating, and early literacy resources. We'll have special features like sensory-friendly installations of flexible seating for neurodiverse children and those with disabilities, and we'll be able to expand on our Library of Things collection. Some outdoor learning, so if we were able to construct a garden space, we'll have an outdoor space for reading, play, educational events, nature-based learning with a demonstration garden and sensory play stations. And basically it'll be an enclosed space that allows for safe hands-on exploration for young learners. So the last thing I want to mention to you all is that this is going to be a lasting investment in Murrieta's future, right? Because everybody knows the children are the future, right? And I know that's cliche, but it's true, right? It's true. They are the future of our community. So to invest in our children is to invest in our future, right? So expanding the library ensures that it remains a hub for literacy, learning, and community connection. It increases our capacity to collaborate with the school districts, preschools, community organizations, and bottom line, it provides a welcoming space and an accessible space for all children and all people and all families in Murrieta to learn, grow, and thrive. So, as I mentioned, invest in Murrieta and invest in our children. So I'd like to then pass it off to Brian Crawford. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. I really appreciate it. I think you can all hear the passion in Melvin's voice when he talks about all the programming that they do, and he's just touched upon some of the larger programs. And I gotta tell you, I get to work with a really great team on this project. I work with a couple other children's librarians, And also with Kevin from the Murrieta Library Foundation and Brian Ambrose, we're all really passionate about this project. And I want to go back a little bit. We started in July of 2023. We met with a lot of community service organizations, and including Murrieta Library Foundation, the Friends of the Library. We met with homeschool moms. We met with teachers from schools, because we put together a project group that was very passionate about the library, and we wanted to get some visioning exercises done with the community to understand what we needed to build at our library. And to give you some perspective, they let their imaginations go wild, and it was a really great sessions. It was probably 3 or 4 sessions over a period of a couple months, and it allowed us to really get an understanding of what the community wanted. So I wanted to show you, just give you a perspective and understanding of the space that we're trying to build into. If you haven't been to the library, the first slide here shows our current Carol Carson Garden of Verses, which is actually on the north end of the library. I'll talk about plan side north, plan side south when I'm looking over these slides, but to the left is actually north on this slide. So you can see within that Garden of Verses area, you have a covered gazebo and some walls. All of that is going to be removed, demolished, for a new expansion. So the yellow that you see on the slide is our intended construction space. And you have just a little different perspective from a drone footage shot. Just in case you haven't been to the library, we also have, let me go back one. Wanted to show you the interior of the children's space. So you can see this is a perspective of the current children's library area with the circulation desk. And just keep in mind where that little couch is, that'll show up on the next slide when I show you the current boundaries of the library, of the children's library. Okay, on this slide, you can see that everything from, let me turn my page here. Everything from the left of the blue line up there, that is the current children's library. Everything to the left of the red line is going to be the new expansion space. So you can see why we needed to remove those walls from the Carol Carson Garden of Verses and move the walls out to the sidewalks of the site. This is a 4,500 square foot expansion, proposed expansion. The main crux of the expansion are the children's storytime rooms, which are on plan side south. It's the small rooms, the 2 rooms there on the southern side of the slide. That's a large multi-purpose room that could be divided into 2 rooms, so we can do multi-age programming in those spaces. And then just to the top of that are the children's stack area where we can house our collections, and then at the very top of the expansion we have staff offices and restrooms. You can see there on the yellow star, that's just that's the current multi-purpose room that we use for all community groups, whether they be children's, adults, external organizations, etc. And this proposed expansion also redesigns and remodels the existing space. The existing space is 2,700 square feet. We're going to add 4,500 square feet. And we'll get more into the exterior space design a little bit later. This just shows a rendering, a proposal for the new expansion space with the stacks areas and the proposed furnishings that we could put in those spaces. It also shows the existing space where we've remodeled the space. It's going to be more for tweens. It's going to be more of a social environment where they're able to study, and we have new book stacks for them, and they can gather to study and talk amongst their friends. Just wanted to show you also a perspective. It's difficult to see when you're looking at plans, what is the space really going to look like? These are just some perspectives that show you when you're walking into the children's library, this is facing north, you're going to see the large glass wall at the end, And on the left side, you would have entrances into our new multi-purpose rooms, the story time rooms. And on the right there are entrances into the staff offices and to the restrooms. This is a shot of the new multi-purpose rooms. You can see there in the middle of the room, we have storage areas for the expanding wall, so we can move the wall pretty quickly to close it off into 2 spaces, and you'll see that we do have some storage space for programming elements and sinks as well. Now we start getting into what I really feel is a really important thing to remember. Not only are we building a 4,500 square foot expansion, that's the interior space of the new building, but we also consider the exterior space to be a major programming element of the new library. It's going to be a much bigger space where we can do outdoor programming such as story times or gardening, just as Melvin mentioned, with all of our programs geared towards gardening. In this perspective, you can it shows you the proposed exterior. We have hardscape elements. We on the top side of that plan, we have some raised garden beds for children's gardening. We have some meandering pathways with reading nooks all around the entire space, so you can go out and do a lot more outdoor programming with the children in large groups. This is the really cool stuff, all right, where we show the different perspectives of the outdoor space as it could be. So you can see that we have the sloped area. We envision that sloped area to be kind of like a little amphitheater for children. So you could have hundreds of children on that slope doing outdoor reading spaces. And there on the left side, you can see the raised garden beds. And then we have just a couple more perspectives of that outdoor garden space as well to show you. Let me back up a little bit. All right, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kristen Crane now.
Okay, thank you so much. So isn't that design absolutely amazing? Yes. So like Brian Crawford talked about, as we embarked on this project, there was a lot of engagement with the community and with the library staff about what should this expansion look like? What should it be? And so when you start on a project like this, yes, we had a grant, but we didn't really know, well, what is this going to cost? And especially in this environment where you're hearing, whether it's at your home for projects or in your business, costs are just going up year over year, and it's really hard to predict. So we did the dreaming, and then we had to do the reality check of what exactly can we afford, considering our overall city budget, and we have a long list of really important projects to the city, whether it's building a new fire station or some important drainage projects. We have our swimming pool that needs work. So we have to make some difficult choices. And so we had to work with our staff and say, all right, that's the big dream, but what can we really make work? Also balanced with, this is it. We're not going to be building another library in the future of Murrieta. It's just not going to happen, whether it's an operating cost or the money to build it. So this is it. And so we really want to embrace this opportunity and get it right, so that we have a library that's going to really serve us for the future. And like Brian Ambrose said at the beginning, working with the city council, they took a chance. We worked with them to say, this is what we think we need, this is how much money we have, what we think we can afford, and we want to recommend that we incorporate a fundraising component of this library to help close that gap. And so minimally, we need to raise about $550,000 for the cost of this project, but optimally, it would be better to raise $1 million or even $1.5 million. And the scale of what the design is that we're able to construct is going to depend. So, kind of the nuts and bolts of it is we're getting ready to go out to bid in the near future to hire a contractor, and we have to go with the lowest responsive bidder. And we're going to have to build in some things so that we can scale and adjust, because there's this uncertainty. We don't know what it's going to really cost. So we want to have a conversation with you and with the community about that fundraising piece, and our Library Foundation has been working on that, and we're embarking on this together, and we really need to spread the word to the community about what this would look like. So we are embarking on more of a grassroots approach. We have 120,000 residents in this community, or 30,000 families. What could this look like to help us get where we need to go? So our clock is ticking. We would like to see if you might be able to help us with how we get the word out. One of the things we would like to do is like a road show to community groups, kind of like what we're doing here today. So if you are part of a group, we were at the Rotary recently, that you think would be amenable to having us come to share about this amazing project, we would welcome that. We are going to be having booths at community events, so please stop by and visit, but that'll be a way for us to get the word out to more of the general public about the project. If you aren't already, I would encourage you to follow the Murrieta Public Library social media accounts, because they're posting. We're going to talk about their GoFundMe effort, and that would be a way. And then helping us to connect with potential donors. So we're envisioning a grassroots effort. You know, if we have 1,000 families make a donation of $25, that'd be $25,000. That's a step in the right direction. And but there may be others out in the community who could also make a bigger donation as like a legacy gift toward this. A $5,000 gift, a $10,000 gift, or even more would be amazing. So if you are interested in that, we would love to talk with you, or if you could refer us to others as well, we would appreciate that. And so with that, I'd like to introduce, one other thing I do want to say, I almost forgot to mention, we have some of our water district representatives in the room, but we've also been having conversations with them because we see this outdoor space being able to double as almost like an outdoor classroom for water efficient landscaping classes or teaching people how to build their irrigation systems. So we think that there's a good chance they also may be a partner with us to help make this happen. And with that, I want to turn it over to Kevin Kuhn, the president of the Murrieta Public Library Foundation.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, everybody. I'm the money person, I guess. So, we're really excited about this project. I moved to Murrieta, I guess, 13 years ago, and I moved here for a lot of the same reasons I think probably a lot of people do. Great schools, a safe community, family-friendly. And as Brian said earlier, this model that we've taken in Murrieta has been really, really successful here, right? Where we run our own services, our city, our fire, and the library. I also happen to work in the library field, which is really unique. So I support California libraries all across the state. I get to walk into many of them. And just to show of hands really quick, how many of you have actually been into our library thus far? Okay. Great. We have a beautiful library now, and I think it's really important to say, I know when I walk in, I'm amazed. It's actually fairly new in the grand scheme of things, but so I think you might walk in and hear this presentation today and think, what we're needing in library space, but the reality is, right, we have a 25,000 square foot building, and the team said it early, we have 2,700 square foot of space for children. 50% or more of circulation happens from there. A majority of the people that walk through the door are kids or families, and using that smallest section of the building to take advantage of the resources and programs and the things that the team is providing. So this really is a key and important project, and we do definitely need your help. I am excited to say that we got a $25,000 donation yesterday, so this campaign is kicking off. We're making some progress. But we also did launch this, this is a kind of a lawn sign awareness campaign. I've got several of these here if anyone wants them. We've got them up at the library. For those of you that have ever built a little free library in your yard, we've got many of those homeowners here in Murrieta that have put one of these up. But so see me after if you could put one of these up and help get the word out. It does link to our GoFundMe campaign. We're trying to kind of make this a more social campaign so more and more people can get involved. But this is a once in a lifetime, once in a generation investment in our community. As Kristen said, we're probably not going to expand this building again, for sure. I mean, this is it. And so we really could use your support, and we're really so thankful that you're here today listening. So thank you.
We're going to take question and answers, but I have a question for all of you. Who remembers going to the library and learning the Dewey Decimal System? Okay, I know, I'm dating myself, that's fine, I don't mind. I'd rather be alive and talking about it than not. So, let's get real here. It was a place where I was able to do reports because they had a full set of encyclopedias. We didn't all have that at home. We had the Webster Dictionary, but we didn't have encyclopedias. It was a gathering spot of friends, and where we finally got to learn to collaborate together and put reports together. It was a social place for me, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have the library in Covina to go to every week, because I had a lot of homework in school. So I think of this, and I think of my granddaughter, and what a great future she will have once this expansion happens, because she loves going to the library. And she has learned so much through the system. And I hope that everybody in this room can take this beyond this room. And if everybody in this room reaches 10 or 20 people, look how fast we can make this fund grow. I think it's so important. So, saying that, who's got questions? Oh, come on. Yes, sir. Can we have a microphone?
Oh, I don't know. Do I?
Yeah, here we go.
There we go.
Thank you. Is this expansion going to be single story?
Yes, it is.
Did you ever think about going up?
Yes, so it is going to be single story, and we would have loved to have gone up. That would have been great. It just introduces a lot more complexity to the design and a lot more funding needs. When you do a second story, you have to have additional ADA requirements like an elevator, multi-point access for multiple stairwells, that kind of thing. So,
Structure.
right,
Okay. How many people live in Murrieta?
about 120,000.
I thought it was more. I think the sign says more.
It's going to be more, a whole lot more. Yeah.
That's it.
Any more questions? Oh, we have one right there.
Hi, I wanted to know what percentage of taxpayer funds are funding this on top of getting donations?
So the overall project cost is about $7 million. That includes this $550,000, and we have a grant. But basically, the rest of the balance, $6.5 million, is coming from a combination of, there's a grant from the state of California, which is taxpayer money, and then, remind me, is that 1.5 is coming from that state grant, and then the balance, I'm going to call it 5, on round numbers, 5 million, is coming from a combination of when new development happens in the city, like new residential, they pay what are called development impact fees, and there's one for the library, and so that's paying for it. We have some money in the bank in that fund, and then we're borrowing against future money, to future development impact fee money, to close some of the gap, and then I think we're also using Measure T money as well in the CIP. So that which Measure T is an additional sales tax measure that we have here in Murrieta. So there's an additional 1 cent sales tax that you pay when you go to Target or buy a car or whatever, and that's also money. So it's all being funded through taxpayer money.
So the majority of the funding is coming from state. Right? Not the
No,
city
I would
of-
say that what we said 1.5, 1.6 million coming from that state grant.
And then the rest is coming from the city of
A
Murrieta?
local revenue source, yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you have another question? Way in the back. Run.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have not been to the Murrieta Library, but I have attended the Menifee Library. And one thing I really appreciated about them is they had a lot of adult programs as well. Like they had a women's support group. So I was wondering if that is something that could expand different group types, and then even maybe perhaps with those group events is a good opportunity to fundraise.
Sure, absolutely, yes. We do have a slew of adult programs. We have programs for teens, tweens, and adults. I just didn't specifically mention our adult programming because, particularly it's an expansion for our children's area. However, when the the expansion happens for the children's area, that will free up that community room that I was just talking about. So even though it's specifically tied to a children's expansion, it will help our ability to expand our programming for adults and seniors with the additional availability of the community room.
Yeah, because like they had some, mental health programs can be quite expensive even with insurance. They had little like emotional support groups, which could be really valuable, I think, to some people who can't afford that, out of pocket.
Please continue to check out our website. I was just at a county mental health workshop that we had just last month. So regularly we do those. It's just the programming is not it's not full yet until we can get access to that room. Thank you.
Yeah, we did just have a mental health program, just a one-off one about 2 months ago for adults, and then we also have mental health kits that are available for checkout at the library.
Any other questions? Right up front. You're getting your exercise in this one, your steps.
Good morning, everyone. This is two-part question, but it's a follow-up to her question regarding the funding. Is the county part of this at all in any way? And my other question is that I hear that you're not going to do any more expansion, but is there going to be in the future any more new library? Because as the community is growing, I live in a place where going to that library, I would rather go to Temecula Valley Library, right? So my kid, it's way in the weird position where it's like, okay, what's our residence? We're in Murrieta, but Murrieta things are far away from us, so.
Great questions, thank you. To dissect those a little bit, so Murrieta, in some communities around us, they have a county library and they have a totally different staffing model for their library system than we have. It's our own Murrieta Public Library. But in terms of funding contributions, Supervisor Chuck Washington, a couple of years ago, made a contribution of county funding toward the project, which is we're using that actually to purchase some of the furnishings that'll be inside. And then in addition to your question about like future expansion, so here we are, 2025, we're embarking, it's about $7 million, I said, just to do this expansion of 4,500 square feet. And so it's sort of it's not to say that there wouldn't be a need and a benefit of building another library, but it has to be taken into consideration with all the other city priority projects and funding that's available and operating cost. And we have talked about the idea of how do we be innovative, right? We have our main Murrieta Public Library building, but there's programs, they call them kind of like an Amazon locker, with its library locker where you can reserve your book online, place an order, and it gets delivered to the locker that we talked about. Could that be part of the new Fire Station 6, where those might be located? I'm not promising that for sure would happen, but we've been talking about that, or more of a bookmobile kind of concept of what could that look like if we're not able to build another library building structure. Is there another way with that programming? And that'll be the question for the future Murrietans to keep contemplating, is where does that fit? But it is not only the cost to build it, which actually in some ways, even though it's a lot of money, is like half the battle, is building it, is operating it, the staffing that goes into that and running all of those programs, and how do you pay for that? So that's just the practical reality. But
Now I see lots of hands. I'm going to circle.
Hi, good morning. I have a couple of questions. Like, what are the expected due dates? Like, for instance, like the fundraising that you guys are wanting, the grassroots for us to go out and do. Like, what is the time frame of that? And then twofold is, what is the expected time to break ground? And then what is the expected opening? Like, woohoo, we got this fabulous library, guys!
That's a great question. So our perspective is the fundraising will continue for probably the next year, but we would love to be able to understand what our fundraising is by June, July. But to answer your question about some of the timeline issues, so we're intending to go out to bid in May, and then we expect to have those bids back in June, and then we're going to bring forward a construction contract to council in July, and hopefully break ground in August. We anticipate it taking about a year to do the construction. But at the end of the construction, we had to do the furnishings and we had to do a bunch of other really cool stuff, and hopefully working with the water districts to get that outdoor space done. So yes, it would be great to understand that all up front what our fundraising is going to be. But the reality is that we're going to take as much money as we possibly can through the fundraising efforts, and we're going to use it for the good of the public library.
Okay.
We have another question right here.
So I recently moved here about 5 years ago. I'm from Ventura County originally. So I grew up there. We have a very robust public transportation system over there. So when I was growing up, I was going to the library. I was using the public transportation system to get around the different libraries in my city. All of the libraries in my city at the time were connected. Here I noticed that they're not as connected. So I wanted to know specifically in terms of this expansion for children, right? Some children, obviously, they go right after school to these libraries. I know I did. But some kids, their parents are at work. Some kids, their parents can't take them to these libraries. The access for walking is very dangerous here. You know, there's a lot of cars, there's a lot of, blockways for children to get to these places. So I wanted to know if there was anything that you guys were doing in terms of transportation, maybe getting kids from their neighborhoods who live in different areas, being able to get them to the Murrieta Public Library.
I think you raise a really important point. And I think transportation in general within the city is a topic. I know I've been working on another initiative actually with the mayor and one of our other council members looking at that, and also working with RTA, which is the Riverside Transit Authority. So honestly, I think it's something we need to talk more about and look at and understand, like, what are those needs? What are their partnership opportunities with the school district? So I don't know if
She's a representative.
I have the honor of representing RTA for the City of Murrieta. There's a program called the Micro Program that is right now out in the Hemet San Jacinto area, where it's kind of like an on-call bus system. And it's mostly for seniors, disabled, and our veterans. But it doesn't mean that it could not expand into probably not young children, but with an adult with them or something. We are looking into that program on a more regional basis, to maybe combine 3 cities to do it. So I will definitely bring that up. I have a meeting, board meeting on Thursday. So I will definitely bring that up and see if that program could be expanded. We are trying to get it this way. It hasn't come yet, but I'm working on it. So maybe that could help down the road to get more people to our library.
Yes, that's one of the main concerns that I've noticed is that there's no bus stops in any neighborhoods really. They're all outside of the neighborhoods. Like, I take the bus to go to school, to community college, so it takes me about an hour and a half to get there. And
I rode that bus.
Yes,
Number 61.
Yes, I take the microbus going to Hemet to Mount San Jacinto Community College, because that's where I go. So it takes about an hour and a half. I do the micro, so I know that bus. But one of the things that I did notice, like I said, is that there are no bus stops within inside of our neighborhoods.
Correct, and mostly on the main streets.
Yes.
So that people can, get to and from stores and what have you.
Which is great, amazing. But for children to be walking to get to a bus stop that is in a main area like that,
most parents are not going to let their kids walk there.
See, which I think is a little crazy, because again, I grew up in Ventura County. Like I said, we had a very robust public transportation system. I grew up in it. I took the bus every day, all the time. I mean, my neighborhood, I lived a block from the bus stop, and so I was used to that. And seeing a city that kind of doesn't do that, I hope and I pray that all of you, see that as a need, especially to be able to get our kids to move from one side of the city, for example, like people who live in like French Valley, for example, they're not going to be going to the Murrieta Public Library. That's where I live, so I don't go to the Murrieta Public Library. I go to the French Valley
Correct.
Library. So like things like that, right? It's like we want our children to be able to experience the expansion, right? So I'm hoping that there is.
Well, I will definitely bring it up in our meeting on Thursday.
Perfect. Thank you.
I do believe, Dr. Andrus, you have a question back there. Oh, and then Miss April will be next.
Good morning, everybody. As many of you know, I've lived here for 35 years and watched our community grow. It's fabulous. My question is your team or teams at the library collaborating with the PTAs or the PTOs through the school district to see if they can also help support you also in their collections and fundraising?
I think Dr. Andrus would like to answer that question. And then Kristen has a comment.
So first of all, as superintendent of schools, I'm delighted to see what the city is doing. I think this is thoughtful. I think this is smart. I think this is great use of our community resources to serve the entire community. The public school system has 20 libraries, one in each school. Each one is around 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. It's full of all those types of same spaces, but it's only for students who are enrolled in Murrieta Valley schools. So the city library is an absolute essential service for the city. And so I applaud the city leadership and managers in this forward-thinking expansion. So kudos to all of you. Yes, Mr. Kuhn, I did send you an email mid-meeting like, yes, we're going to push into every PTA council meeting, and you and I are going to chat with those folks, make sure they know too. And also, there's a couple other things we can do along those lines. But I just want to applaud the city for that forward-thinking part. And so this might be floating out there in the brains here as a joint use library. Challenges with joint use libraries means that the public can then have access into schools, and that is not something we don't. It takes a lot of design to do that. I've seen it done before. I've worked in a district that did joint use at a high school with the city of Folsom, but there was a lot involved in a joint use library, specifically around security issues, because we just don't let members of the public walk into schools, right? And so that's why they're not joint use libraries right now. But there is the potential, maybe, but not probably here. But I just want to applaud the city, so thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Dr. Andrus. So that is on our radar as one of the, for our road show of going to the different PTAs, so we really appreciate your support getting connected to them.
This has been an awesome coffee with the city.